All right, welcome back to the podcast, guys. Thanks for tuning in. I'm covering a variety of topics on this one. This isn't Ask Me Anything, where I answer all the questions from our patrons, channel members, and the Sailing Doodles Navy. Sorry, the dogs are I just gave them a bath, so they might have the zoomies a little. So sorry about that. So if you would like your question answered in the next video and the next podcast that I do, one of these, I do these probably about every week or two, do an Ask Me Anything. You can either join at Sailing Doodles Navy, that's sailingdoodles.podia.com, or become a patron, patreon.com/sailingdoodles. And we'll definitely answer your question in the next one. So the topics I'm going to cover today are kind of like sailing and cruising lifestyle, like favorite places and types of boats, what's it like with crew and dogs on board. We're going to go over boat ownership, tech, and safety, and behind the scenes, running the channel, how does that work, and life off the boat. So what do I do off the boat? Talking about relationships and all that, and mistakes and regrets and lessons learned. All right, these are all questions from our supporters there. So thank you all. I'll start with the very first one in the sailing and cruising lifestyle. It under favorite places and future plans. This is Matt S. If you could only, oh, by the way, cheers to you guys. Thank you much. Beer 30. If you could only cruise one region for the rest of your life, where would it be and why? That's a good question. Oh man, I would hate to just do one place because you're so limited. Honestly, the first thing that came to my mind would be the Med, but I'm not sure. It's just such a short sailing season. But that's really my preferred kind of cruising is, like in Greece, especially in places like that. You can find it in Italy and Croatia and all that. It's a little bit more expensive in those places. But, you med more to this tiny little town that has their own little town dock, seawall, and you med more there, and there's a cafe off the back of your boat, and it's pretty great. Oh my gosh, guys, it's probably bad timing washing the dogs right before doing a podcast, but like I found a tick, and so it was like freaking me out. So I gave him it was a little baby tick, like it hadn't bitten anybody, but I was like wondering how it got there, and so I was like, okay, I need to give them a bath. So scared me a little. And then I checked myself, make sure I'm good, and I am. So I don't know. Anyway, the first thing that came to my mind would be the Med, but it has such a short sailing season. Because you're only going to get four or 5 months, and then the water's only going to be warm for a couple months. So other than that, if you're going to only one place, it's got to be the Caribbean, because the Caribbean's kind of connected to the Bahamas. So you can do the Bahamas if you want, or the Caribbean. There's so many places to go and see. The weather is generally pretty good all year round. You can stay there all year round. I know there is hurricane season, but as long as that's one thing I never understood about insurance is like so many people's insurance, including mine I have right now, wants you to leave the hurricane box, which would be like basically, from South Carolina down to Grenada. And so then they want you to leave the hurricane box for hurricane season. Insurance I've had before just doesn't cover me for a named storm. If you're in that hurricane box and it's a named storm, then your insurance doesn't cover you. But if you're living on your boat and cruising around, it's not a big deal. If you see a hurricane coming, you normally have 4 or 5 days notice, and you can be 600 miles away in 4 days, so or more. It's, for my opinion, you can still do that. So Caribbean would probably be the answer there. I would love to do the South Pacific and all that again, but it's just so far to go and so remote between places that it is fun to go through. But oh man, year after year, just keeping on doing that would get pretty logistically hard, even though it would be beautiful. All right. So this is KDKC Photos. Do you ever plan to sail the West Coast, specifically the San Diego area? Not really. I have sailed through San Diego before. I was doing the delivery on that Beneteau 50, picked it up in British Columbia and sailed it down to Mexico, and then subsequently down across the South Pacific over to the Thailand. The problem with going off the West Coast, especially up north there past like Mexico, is that it's kind of out of the way. So you do have the Channel Islands, and there is some stuff to go up there. San Diego's got a good bay you can pull into, and then you can go up like Dana Point, and there's even a couple like marinas and stuff in LA. But there's not a lot of places where you can anchor offshore and stuff like that. There's not a whole lot of places to go. So it's pretty far out of the way when you're doing like around circumference around the world, because you go through the Panama Canal, and even if you sail up to Mexico, then you're still more than 1,000 miles from California, and it's like, do you really want to go all that way just to do that? So yeah, I mean, likely not heading back up there. So, all right, James Gardner, have you been to Jamaica yet? And if not, do you plan to sail there? Yeah, I'll probably sail there eventually in the new Cat when I get it. I don't know exactly when, or I might even do it in this boat if the Cat is delayed for some reason. But I don't know. I have been to Jamaica many times, but I've never been there by boat. I have my family used to vacation there for Thanksgiving every year, and so we would go there with a bunch of other families, and but sailing there, yeah, I plan on it, but it's not like a must see or whatever. I'm not sure what the sailing is like around there. Tom Petruzziello, what's your time frame for leaving the Bahamas and heading to the Chesapeake? Would be fun to meet up, maybe at the Annapolis Fall show. Yeah, so I do plan to leave here probably. I was planning on maybe leaving like June 1st or so around then and then sailing straight to the Chesapeake, but I've kind of decided I might as well, since we're down here, I might as well like sail through the Abacos and kind of get some more cruising in on the way up, just because I'd like to take a couple months off from filming and like maybe concentrate on glamping doodles or do some other things. And if I have enough content batched up, I can take those 2 months off. I'll still have to edit and everything, obviously, but I wouldn't actually have to make content on the boat. I could use that, and so I may go through the Abacos and then head up. So that's the kind of the plan right now. And then the fall boat show, yeah. So my boat will be up in the Chesapeake for during that time. So I plan to either anchor out or get a mooring there at Annapolis and hang out during the boat show. And I'm hoping to be able to take our patrons and channel members and the Sailing Doodles Navy out on a little sail. I might have to do a couple of them just to fit everybody on there. But we'll go out and do a little 3-hour cruise type thing during the boat show, a couple days. And, it's kind of a perk for you guys being Sailing Doodles supporters, as you get to come sail with me a little bit on this boat. So I think that'd be a lot of fun. Stanley Burr, have you ever thought about sailing the Great Lakes to showcase what they offer? Yeah, but I think I'm more likely to do that in 5 or 6 years. Like, I might go to a trawler in 5 or 6 years. And so do the Great Loop, and the Great Loop is a lot easier on a motorboat than it is a sailboat, just because of all the bridges and everything, and it's just easier to deal with. So I would probably do the Great Lakes by trawler or something like that. All right, to continue on with sailing and cruising lifestyle, sailboats versus powerboats. Okay, pretty timely there. So what I did is I gave all the questions to there was like 40 questions. I gave it to ChatGPT. I said, here are all the 40 questions, organize them by topic and kind of, show the repeat questions, kind of bulk them together. And it did a great job. So it just makes it a lot easier for me. You use it like a tool. I do a paid subscription to ChatGPT because it does help me with things like thumbnail ideas and description writing and titles and all that. So I use it a lot. And then for the stuff like this. Okay, Ian Walker, I like your Sea Ray, but I'm struggling to decide between sailing and motorboating due to the cost of running a powerboat. What are your thoughts and advice on that decision? Well, I mean, a motor vessel is definitely more expensive, but a proper trawler is not that much more expensive, honestly, operating wise, because, if you're getting a proper trawler that maybe has twin 150 horsepowers or twin 300 horsepowers or something like that, you're cruising at 6-7 knots and you're only burning a couple gallons, maybe, if you're at trawler speed, maybe you might be only burning a couple gallons, maybe 3 gallons an hour in your trawler, maybe even less for some boats. Like, I'm not even sure what some of the more efficient trawlers do. They're slower, obviously, 6 knots, but like, I think there's some that can do, like they have a single engine 150 horsepower that's doing 1.5 gallons, maybe 2 gallons of fuel an hour and still doing 6-7 knots. So if you're doing with a smaller trawler, there's not that much of a difference because, I mean, you end up motoring at least half the time anyway when you're on a sailboat. So, you're still going to have fuel and all that. And then if you get your trawler set up right, where you don't have to run a generator, you got plenty of solar and a big battery bank, and there's enough airflow through the boat, or you have your refrigeration set up properly, you don't have to run a generator as much. It is said you're kind of limited on, that just for a trawler, it's more like island hopping through the Bahamas, right? You're not going to do what you can. It's just that's going to be expensive. It's like, so say you wanted to sail from the Chesapeake down to straight to the Caribbean. You're going to do the Salty Dog Rally. It's like, I don't know, a week, 10 days to get down there. I think it's like 1,200 miles or 1,500 miles, whatever it is. And, to do that in your motor yacht, it would take you the same amount of time if you're doing a trawler, but you're going to burn several thousand gallons of fuel. Whereas you're doing it on a sailboat, hopefully you're picking the right time. You might only burn 100 gallons of fuel. So, you're saving $4,000 or $5,000 right there on a sailboat. So really, it depends on price, and then price wise, sailboat is slightly cheaper. It depends on what you're using the boat for, mostly, is what I would say. Well, that's annoying. I had just touched my microphone apparently, and when I did, I paused it and I muted it, so the light went red. And I don't know. I don't like that it lights up, like it's annoying anyway. But anyway, so I continued on with the podcast for another 35 minutes and I was editing the podcast and I realized there's no audio. All right, so it's beer 30 again this time. I'm a little, yeah. All right, I'll get back to it, I guess. I will pick up where the microphone stopped. So we just did sailboat versus powerboat. So Al says, I currently own a Prestige 550. That's a nice boat, a big power yacht, I believe. You're exploring upgrades between a Marlowe, a Hampton, a large cat, or an oyster. What do you think of the offers, the best comfort and cruising experience in the Bahamas and the Caribbean? Well, I mean, if you want a nice sailboat, I mean, I'm not familiar with Marlowe and Hampton. I honestly don't know what they are. I'm assuming they're some kind of, like, is it a trawler or a powerboat? Anyway, I'm not sure. Or a large cat. I do know some large cats, but like, so an oyster, I mean, if you're looking at like a 60, I think because it simplified it a little bit. I think when I was browsing the comments, you said like a 67-foot oyster. I mean, that's a great boat. It's beautiful. It's expensive, but it's also going to have a deep draft. Like a 67-foot oyster is probably going to have a 7 or 8 foot draft, if not more. And so you basically can't do the Bahamas in an 8 foot draft. You can, you're just very limited on where you can go, and you have to go at high tides. So I love the idea of an oyster, but if you're going to do an oyster, especially a big one, you're going to have problems in the Bahamas. Now in the Caribbean, you're fine. I mean, they have deep draft anchorages everywhere, and so you're fine. Now, I mean, a nice big power cat would be great too. I mean, like like the first one that comes to mind is the Aquila 50, the brand new design. It's kind of I really like the design of the Aquilas, and they're really pretty. And I mean, I couldn't speak to the build quality. I've never had one, but I've just seen them in a boat show, and I really liked the layout. So something like that. Or I don't know what a Marlowe or a Hampton are. So, it depends on what you want to do with it. If you're going to go down to the Caribbean and you're going to keep it down there, I mean, you can get away with the power cat. If you're going to cross an ocean, or you want to do you're going to go back and forth to the Caribbean, to the East Coast, you might want to do more of a sailboat, because like you're just going to spend a ton of money on fuel getting to and from. So it really depends on what you want to do with it. I love the idea of a nice big oyster, but it limits you in the Bahamas. Otherwise, like, I would like to try out like an Aquila 50 power cat. I would love to try one of those. They're also pretty expensive. I think they're $2.5 million, something like that. So, maybe after, instead of getting a trawler or something, maybe I get a nice power cat. So I don't know. And I'd probably treat it like a trawler. Whatever I got, I'd probably treat it like a trawler. So, all right, next section: dogs, crew, and life on board. That's from the first question is from William. You seem like a dog person. You have a schnoodle. All right, cool. I have seen dogs on boats, but rarely cats. Why do dogs seem to be the go-to per boat pet? Well, I think there are plenty of cats. You just don't see them, right? I mean, like, so dogs, whenever you walk by or dinghy by a boat that has a dog on it, they're hanging out on deck and they'll bark at you and say hello, whatever. Whereas, the cats are inside doing cat things. Cats are just not as social with people they don't know. Like, and you don't, I don't know, you don't take a cat. I mean, some people take their cats for a walk, but normally you don't take a cat for a walk every day, where you take your dog for a walk every day. And so you just see more dogs than you see cats. I don't know that they're less popular necessarily, but you just see less of them. And then also, like, one thing I have noticed though is that, like, if an animal falls off a boat, it's almost always a cat. Like, I've heard of many cats falling off boats and very few dogs. I don't know why that is. You would think the cats are more sure-footed than dogs, but they appear not to be. So that's just, I'm not sure why. All right, Paul, have you considered booking a passage on a freighter to get your dogs to Thailand? That could become a month's worth of content. Yeah, that'd be cool. I mean, I know people that have done stuff like that, but I still think you're kind of limited. Like, it's not like the freighters are set up for dogs, right? I mean, they don't have like a dog park. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, are you going to walk them around the ship every day? And like, I mean, where's he going to pee and poo on a freighter? I don't know. And then I wouldn't even know how to get in contact with the freighter to do it, or how to do it. I mean, like, I have no idea. That would, and you know, it sounds like a month at sea on a pretty, they're pretty Spartan boats, right? And I don't know. I mean, it'd be an experience, I guess, but I think I'd be pretty bored after a while. I mean, I would consider it, but you know, maybe I don't know. I'd consider it. But all right, Richard, is Mackenzie staying on as permanent crew? You two work really well on camera. She's gone right now. She went home for a bit. She's going to come back at the end of the month with her sister. So you know, she's been gone. She had been gone for a couple months and was a little homesick and dog sick. Wanted to see her dog, and so she went home for a bit. But she's going to come back and help me get the boat back to America. So yeah. After that, I don't know what we're doing. Bob Woodward, how hard is it to find good crew, and where do you typically find them? It is hard to find good crew, honestly. It. I mean, I always tell people if like you're a single guy and you want to go sailing, the odds of you actually finding a single girl to join you while you're sailing, like organically in the wild down here in the Bahamas, is nearly zero. I mean, it happens. Like I know of some, but like there's very little. I covered this in a previous podcast. You know, the dating scene while cruising is very sparse, especially like in places like the Bahamas where there's not any big population centers. You get down to the Caribbean and more, you know, like St. Martin or something like that, it might be more of you know, option, or and like St. Thomas, but in the Bahamas, you know, there's very few. And so, uh, you know, crew, that's a little different. You know, there's crewing websites. So like most of them that I've crewed me, like, so Amanda I knew from before Sailing Doodles. You know, Stephanie we met at a bar in Thailand. Mackenzie we met at a bar in Charleston. What else? Taylor I met on Instagram. Laura was a friend of a friend, and so was Megan. Were we kind of friends before we started doing all that? And then, so like the girls that the two girls that sailed with me and Stephanie, like I met them. I can't remember. It was like on back. It was like your backpacking website, or maybe Cruise Seekers. I think it was like Workaway, which is like a backpacking website. I think that's how we found them. And then so you can do those kind of sites for that. And there's crewseekers.net and findacrew.com or whatever it is. I don't know. So you can always find stuff there too. And then, you know, yeah. All right. Boat ownership, tech, and safety. That's the next big section. The naughty dogs then versus now. Jeff has a few questions. What is it like owning a CT50, the CT56 naughty dogs again? Is it easier or harder this time? I feel like I'm working on the boat more. Like there's more stuff breaking and I'm fixing more stuff on the boat. I don't know if that's actually true or not, but that's just what it feels like. As far as operating the boat, it's maybe a little bit easier because there's less of a learning curve because I know how most things work on the boat already from previous experience. So I don't know. It seems like I'm working more on the boat and fixing things, but you know. Okay, his next question is: are you doing any upgrades now that you couldn't afford the first time? No, so one of the big upgrades that the previous owner did was put in the electrical, you know, the batteries and all that. So now I have a 10 kilowatt hour battery bank, and that'll last me, you know, as if the sun's shining, I don't need to run a generator for the most part. So it's nice. I mean, I do run a generator every other day, like do laundry or to run the water maker or something like that. But so the only other upgrade that there's two upgrades that I would maybe do to this boat, and I would like to do, but it probably won't do. I would love to replace several of the winches with electric winches, like for um, the I need to put one or two on the mast for the halyard. I can probably get away for the main halyard not doing it. I can use the Millie, but I would like to have the spinnaker winch electric for raising and lowering the dinghy. And then, you know, on the Genoa sheets, I'd like to have that there. What else? I think maybe for the furling, the Genoa furler, I'd like to have electric winch on there. So I'd like to put some electric winches on there, just make operation a lot easier. And then the other thing would be a really big beefy davits with a solar arch. Because if this boat had another 1,000 watts of solar, like I would literally never have to run the generator, and I could probably do a lot of things, a lot like, you know, I could do laundry and all that without having to run the generator, and I could do other stuff to just off the battery system. And maybe so if I bumped up the 10 kilowatts to 20 and then put another 1,000 watts of solar and then the solar arch and then the electric winches. Although I don't think I'm going to do any of that because like I don't plan on this being my full-time boat because of the new cat that's being built. As long as insurance comes through, so we'll see. Um, how's the interior woodworking holding up? Pretty good. I mean, you can see in some places that are really exposed to sun or water. It needs to be refinished. The floor in the salon definitely needs to be refinished. But like the rest of this wood, I don't know. It's bad right here, but like the rest of the wood is pretty good. Like over here is pretty good. So like it's holding up well. The outside teak, oh gosh, forget it. It just takes forever. What are the negatives of owning a 36-year-old boat then versus now? I mean, just the maintenance. Everything. It's a 35-year-old boat. Like everything's breaking. I had to rebuild the hydraulic ram, steering ram. Uh, I like just earlier today, I had to, I mean, it was just a filter, but the washing machine was not loading water, and I figured out it was a filter. Like the starter and all the little things that all add up that I had to repair lately. Changing out the macerator. It's just a lot of maintenance, and if you don't know how to do all that maintenance, but then it's like I'm trying to do all this other work, and then I've got to, I still haven't finished the teak. I want to finish the teak, but like it takes so much time to do that, and I'm trying to do edit and do all these things. It's a lot of work. Maintenance and setup. Jay asks, not the most exciting topic, but how do you manage black water when anchored or moored for a long time? Well, my holding tank is pretty big. I can easily go at least a week, maybe 10 days, if I am careful on the use of it. Uh, so I'm not on a mooring for more than a week. And honestly, like, I mean, just whatever. My macerator pump had quit working, and so I replaced it today. So for the past couple weeks until I could get it fixed, it was just running out. But there's a lot of current and all that. I mean, it's not obviously you're not supposed to do that, but I mean, what option did I have? My macerator pump wasn't working, and so I had to fix that. Anyway, so really, it's not. I'm not anywhere for more than a week. And if you are on a mooring and you need to go empty, you just get off the mooring for 20 minutes, go out 2 miles offshore, come back. 45-minute round trip to do that. All right, Jay asks, how much space do you set aside for tools and spares on Naughty Dogs? So the forward cabin, which would be like the bunk room for like if it was a captain's cabin, that's all tools. That's all tools and equipment and all that. And then it's got some spares up there, solvents and paints and all that stuff too. But then underneath the salon seating and then the salon cabinets is all spares. So you have to a lot of spare space on here. So definitely you have to take that up. All right, Chris, has artificial intelligence changed sailing in any meaningful way? Not really that I can tell. Uh, I mean, no. Uh, not this. I mean, I think it will eventually, but when you say artificial intelligence, I don't think artificial intelligence will change much about sailing. I think technology will definitely help, like make things more automatic, and I think you'll see more foiling. You know, I mean, I think some boats even already have it. Where it's a monohull, and you put a foil out on the leeward side, which whenever you're sailing, and it helps push the boat right back up, so you can go faster, further, and all that. So I mean, I think those kind of technology advances are going to make sailing different. But like AI, I mean, I don't know. What are you going to get an Optimus robot and put it on here and actually have it handle all the winches for you and stuff? So no, I don't think so. I mean, it's all technology, but I wouldn't say AI. All right, safety protocols from Doug. Do you go over man overboard procedures with your crew, especially with drone shots when you're solo on deck? Um, I mean, yeah. I mean, I tell everybody, but the problem is if it's just two people on board, that's not ideal. If you have three people on board, I always brief people like, okay, whoever sees the person go overboard, your job is to yell and scream, point, and keep your eye on that person. You don't do anything else. Everybody else has to get the boat back to that person. Now, if it's if you're solo or there's two people on board and somebody falls over, well, I mean, it's a different story. It's a lot harder to get that person back because I can't like keep my eyes on you because I have to lower the sails or turn around or do whatever to get there, and that's not easy to do in a short amount of time. So Jess asks, how many times have you or your crew fallen overboard in the last 9 years? Be honest, I don't believe it's zero. I mean, it's zero. We've never fallen overboard. I mean, maybe getting on or off a dinghy, but not underway, and certainly not underway in any capacity has anyone fallen overboard. It just hasn't happened. I mean, has anybody fallen off the boat while at anchor or anything? I don't even think anybody's fallen off the boat while at anchor. I mean, maybe transferring from the boat to the dinghy had people fallen in. Might have been alcohol involved, just a time or two. I've dropped a dog or two in the water, moving them from the to and from the boat, but they don't seem to mind too much. All right, next section, behind the scenes, running the channel. Keith asks, what are the pros and cons of Podia versus Patreon? Any plans to host another Sailing Duels flotilla to join in? So Patreon, and mostly because of Apple, was going to increase. So Patreon takes 8%, and I'm on the founders plan. If you're just signing up for Patreon right now, I believe they take 12 or 15%. And so, you know, it's obviously a higher percentage, whereas Podia, it is no, they have a processing for credit cards, right? Which is like 3%, but that's pretty standard. But it's an annual fee, I believe 900 and some odd dollars. So it's less. I keep more of the money in Podia than Patreon, and Apple charges 30%. So if you're using the Patreon app and you signed up for Patreon through Apple, I know there was a court case, like technically, you know, Apple can't force you to buy the subscription from their store anymore. They can let you go to a third party, but still most people don't do that. And so Apple, if you subscribe to the Sailing Duels Patreon through the app, they take 30%. Patreon takes 8%. I mean, so I only get 60%. So that's why I went to Podia, and I can do more with Podia. Podia is actually started as a learning platform, so you can do courses and schools on there, which I have done. So you can get the sailing school on there, and you can get I have some webinars and the maintenance courses on there, so you can take all those things inside the Sailing Doodles Podia. And then also you get exclusive access to the videos and the weekly video updates and everything. So if you want to check that out, it's sailingdoodles.podia.com, and I'm answering all your guys' questions from there right now. So Brett asks, what are your biggest personal and YouTube influences in your work and storytelling? I guess like Casey Neistat. I watched his stuff, I think, before I was even doing Sailing Doodles. Just, you know, his vlog style stuff. He doesn't do a whole lot anymore. And I mean, I guess if you want to consider like, you know, La Vagabond, because, you know, I think they had 60 episodes when I watched their stuff. That was before I even started Sailing Doodles. And I was like, all right, if they can do it, I can do it. So I said, screw it. So yeah. And then right now I watch a lot of like science stuff, like the Sci Show, Answers with Joe, stuff like that. So I watch a lot of that. And then I guess like non-science stuff, I watch like How Ridiculous. Anyway. So, all right, life off the boat. All right. Oh, it's Amanda stuff here. Glenn Goodall asking about Amanda. Is there still something with Amanda? Is there a chance for something with Amanda? I mean, who knows? But I don't know. I'm gonna let that one go. Stanley asks, "How old are you?" I forgot. I'm 47. Be 48 in October. Do you want to get married or be in a permanent relationship? Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't mind being in a permanent relationship. I don't think you have to be married to do that. You know, I think that's just I don't know. I think, you know, the actual, hey, Merlin, sorry. Hey. Anyway, I don't, you know, why do you have to put legal stuff on a relationship? Anyway, do you still see kids in your future? I mean, if the person I had a permanent relationship was really wanting to have kids, I would, but it's not. I mean, I'm already 47, about to be 48. So like, it would need to happen pretty soon. And, you know, I don't know if that's going to happen. So anyway, I'm okay. How many more years do you think you'll be doing Sailing Doodles? Will you retire to Thailand or Texas? I will not retire to Texas. I probably won't retire to Thailand. It'll probably be more something like Central America or South America. Like I hear good things about Colombia. And that's simply because I would love to go to Thailand and retire, and maybe we'll see, but maybe I'll have less holding me to this side of the world. But I mean, it's just so far. It's like 30 hours of travel time to get there, and expensive to get there. I mean, it's cheap once you get there, but then you're also 12 hours off the clock. So like, if you want to talk to somebody back home, it's really difficult. And I've heard, you know, like Colombia is even cheaper these days than Thailand. So, you know, go check that out. And it's only a 3-hour flight. So that's the nice part about that. As for how long I'll continue doing Sailing Doodles, I don't really know. I mean, I think once I have enough of a nest egg or investments that I feel like I can retire and not really need the income from it anymore. Like if that ever happens, I mean that's going to be 5 or 6 years down the road if it's going to happen. But I don't think I would fully retire. I think I would do with like what the La Vagabond is doing. So I mean, I'm guessing I don't have first-hand knowledge. I haven't talked to them about this. I've only talked to them a couple times at boat shows. It's kind of funny. It's anecdotal, whatever. I mean, I've done the same thing with people, so like I can't get upset about it. But like we were sitting there, we were at the Annapolis Boat Show. It was me, Brian, and Karen from Delos, and then Elena from La Vagabond. We're all sitting there, we're talking, and so we're sitting there, and I was like, man, I don't know how you do it with 2 kids on board, whatever, blah blah. We just had a conversation for a while, and then so she asked like, so do you have a boat here? What do you do? And I'm like, yeah, I got a boat here, and whatever. She had no idea who I was, which is fine, like, because I've done that same thing with other YouTubers that come up and okay, for instance, like Zatara, like I didn't know Keith. I knew, I mean, that was the first time I ever met him, and this was, I believe, like the 2020 boat show in Miami in February, right before COVID. I think this is when that was. And I was at an appearance at the boat show with one of the vendors, and so like I'm talking to a lot of fans and all that, and so I'm just shaking hands and like I try to engage everybody, like ask him where you from, what are you doing, whatever, blah blah. And so he comes up to me, he's like, hey Bobby, I'm like, hey, how you doing? Uh, are you here boat shopping or what are you doing? He's like, I'm Keith from Zatara. I'm like, oh, my bad, man. Sorry, I didn't recognize you. So anyway, I've done the same thing. So okay, what was I doing? Oh, so I will do like La Vagabond does. So I'm like I said, this is not firsthand. This is what I'm guessing from looking at their boat and their content, is that they have professional videographers that come on board and film and do all that. And so I'm sure they don't live on that boat full time. It's only a 2 cabin boat, and then they'll have videographers come on board. So I'm sure what they do is they film for a month on the boat with the videographers and all that, and then they do at least a couple months either alone on the boat or they go do something else, right? And so I would do that. I think I would still be on a boat full time, but like every third month, I would bring in a professional videographer to come film for a month, and we film. So La Vagabond puts out, I think, only 1 video a week. So in a month, they could film 3 months of content, right? If they're filming every day or almost every day. And so it'd be the same way. I could bring on a videographer and we film for a month, and then I've got 3 months worth of, another 2 months worth of footage, and then I don't have to film for 2 months. And then I hired that videographer, then edits and does all that. So it's a lot less work for me. The downside is, that videographer is going to want 100 grand a year or more to do that, and I got to pay their expenses. So like my income would definitely go down by a lot, but my stress level would also go way down. And but if I'm semi-retiring at that point, where I don't necessarily need the income from it, that's the way I would see doing it. I'm not the retiring type. Like I've always got to be doing something. I don't think I'm the retiring type. All right, Tomcat. In your 9-year recap video and the Rome vlog, Amanda featured heavily. If she wanted to return, would you let her back on board, or is that ship sailed? I'd be happy to talk about it. So you never know. Crew and past relationships, another section there. John Fleming, have you heard from Stephanie lately? How's she doing? No, I haven't. It's been over a year since I've heard from her, so I don't know what's going on with her. Curtis Swan, if Mackenzie isn't responding to Bobby's charm, maybe try on her sister. Well, that was never our relationship. It was never my intent or her intent or anything to get romantic, and I don't see that changing. It's just a nice, friendly, cordial, workish friend type thing. All right, down to the next big section, mistakes, regrets, and lessons learned. Mike, what's the biggest mistake you've made on your sailing adventures, not related to people, but related to the boat or a trip itself? 100% it'd be this boat, not, not, so when this boat had its transmission fire, the standby anchor let go because it was only held on by a little hook, right? But the hook didn't have like a clasp on it. So we were in heavy seas. I was in heavy seas, and it, big wave came up and knocked the chain and knocked the hook off, and then the anchor came out, and then that's went back into the prop, sees the prop, transmission caught on fire. There you go. So in hindsight, yeah, locking that anchor down where that wouldn't have happened. But I will say, I mean, then that led to me buying the Dark Side, which is the Hatteras, which I really liked. And so, you know, one thing led to another, and now I'm back in this boat. So, you know, no harm, no foul. I mean, like, who knows how things would have been different had I kept this boat versus, I mean, you know, I might not have gone to Thailand and met Stephanie and all that stuff. So I really don't know. Or who knows what would happen. So it's hard to say that's a regret. I do regret selling the Hatteras when I did. I should have kept it for another year, but I was expecting my new cat to take a year to build, not 2 years. And then I wasn't expecting my cat to sink after I got it, or crash. So I would have kept the Hatteras for another year had I known the timeline on that, just because it was a really enjoyable boat and I would have done some more stuff with that. So I guess those two. Um, all right, Jeff Hill, how did you handle the COVID lockdowns with just you and Taylor on board? Did you ever get close to going crazy? No, we had a great time. We were in Puerto Rico, who locked down massively heavy. It was ridiculous. So we were in Puerto Rico March 16th. Luckily, we had just gotten to a marina and I had just rented a car, and then the next day there was lockdown. And they just way overreacted in Puerto Rico. You weren't allowed to leave your house except every other day, depending on the end of your license number, right? If it was an odd or an even number, you could only leave your house Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, or Saturday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, depending on what your license number was. And you were only allowed to go to like essential services, like, you know, grocery stores and pharmacies. And so we were in the marina and they had to close the marina because they weren't allowing recreational boating. And I'm like, well, no, but I live on my boat. It's not recreational. And so like I had to get some exceptions from the marina because they're like, no, you can't be here. I'm like, well, I have to be here. Where do you want me to go? And anyway, uh, and thank God I had that rental car though, where we would have been stuck. Like, I mean, because you couldn't get a taxi. How was I going to get to the grocery store? It's 5 miles away. So, and then the marina, the power coming into the boat was like at 130 volts, which my um, inverter charger wouldn't accept the voltage. So like I my batteries were draining while we were in the marina, and I needed to buy a battery charger to just plug in and like run an extension cord to keep the batteries topped off. But like all the auto parts stores were closed to get one, and you know, so the only place I could get one was at Walmart, and it was a piece of junk, and it wouldn't keep up with it. So like it was a pain in the ass. And so what we ended up doing is uh, in the middle of the night, we just at 4 in the morning, I turned off all the lights, turned off AIS, and we just left and sailed to the Virgin Islands. And the Virgin Islands, I mean, because technically we weren't allowed to leave marina because they weren't allowing, you know, recreational boating, but we didn't tell anybody, and kept it off and just went. And we went to the Virgin Islands. They were still open for another 2 weeks, like even the bars and restaurants were, and then they finally closed down. But it was a lot more relaxed there. It wasn't nearly as strict. They had us strict for a couple weeks. It was a little bit annoying. They closed the beaches, and I'm like, really, we're on a beach, not talking. It's just stupid. You know, all that. A lot of that stuff in hindsight was really dumb, but it is what it is. But it was really nice because in the U.S. Virgin Islands, they were doing takeout, so we could go get takeout food and all that. And you know, there we had, you know, there was we spent, you know, all the moorings at the national parks for free, and we spent a couple of months, 2 or 3 months, like on a mooring at St. John. Like it was, and we had the beaches to ourselves. We had other friends there. We'd hang out with them on their boats. You know, we had a good time, and you know, because tourists weren't allowed to come because like they had closed all the Airbnbs and hotels. So if you didn't have a place to stay on the island that you owned, you weren't really going to be able to come. So it was nice having all those beaches to ourselves. Um, what was it like emotionally and mentally being stuck on the boat back then? It was, I mean, other than like I told you, a couple like bad stuff in Puerto Rico, it was really great. All right. Let's see here. I think I went through it a little bit faster this time. I think I got one more left. What does it say here? Oh yeah, I went, okay. I cut a few minutes off there. Maybe I'm talking a little faster, or I didn't go into depth. So last question from Doug. Now that you have Starlink, do you still need a SIM card for your phone? Can you get by with just Wi-Fi calling? Do you have streaming access for shows or sports? Let's see. Yes. So Starlink's great. I'm really happy though that Amazon has Kuiper coming because our Starlink needs competition because, you know, okay, the main thing with Starlink is that they want to sell the unlimited package to boats for $5,000, but they're targeting the super yachts. So if you have a 150-foot yacht or a 100-foot yacht, $5,000 a month is nothing compared to your operating budget, and you get unlimited high-speed Wi-Fi. They're going to do that. What Starlink doesn't want to do is that same exact unit, that same exact plan works for an RV that's $150 a month or $175 a month. There is physically very little difference on how this works. And so they that's why they're passing along those fees even to smaller boaters, but they don't care about the smaller boaters because for every small boater, there's a one, every 20 or 25 small boaters, there's a super yacht that's paying the $5,000. So like they don't care that they're ripping us off when because they want to make money on the super yachts. Whereas like what they're doing for people in my bracket is it's $250 a month. You get 50 gigs included, and everything after that's $2 a gig. And like that I mean, I use a lot of bandwidth, and like so I mean, if it was in an RV, it'd be 175, but because it's a boat, I'm paying $500 a month or more. I mean, it's ridiculous. And so I want competition so that we have options there. Um, I'd still keep my SIM card for my phone. I have AT&T. They charge me an extra $100 a month to roam like home, basically. Uh, but the benefit of that is my phone works, my phone number works, and I mean, it's $100 extra a month, but I mean, everything works, and then my phone works when I'm away from the boat just through cellular data. But on the boat, like we've had crew on that they didn't turn on their cellular data or whatever, and so just on the boat, their phone works fine through Wi-Fi calling and all that and whatever. So, but yeah, I mean Starlink. I mean it is annoying that I feel like they're kind of ripping off the small boaters, but I mean it's been a game changer as far as being able to work remote. Because SIM cards back in the day, I mean, I would spend probably I don't know I'd probably spend $50 a week on Bahamian on cellular data, and then, but now I mean, so now I can upload, all I want, and it doesn't cost me any extra. Whereas before, I would think twice about using all that extra data to do stuff. So, all right, guys. Well, thanks so much for watching. Please click like and subscribe if you want your question answered on the next podcast. Please consider joining the Sailing Doodles Navy. That's sailingdoodles.podia.com, and I'll talk to you on the next podcast.